Nick T. Hey, it's my first time going live, so, we'll see. What's up, Jordan? Let's go. Jacob. Can you hear me? Bear with me here, but can you hear me, Nick? Figure out this sound. Okay. Is that, yeah, that you can hear me? Okay, cool. I see some thumbs up. Maybe that's a good sign. All right, sweet. All right, hey, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. It's 2:30 here in Comanche, 3:30 Eastern time. First off, getting started, I have a few things in front of me that I wrote down. I'd like to say real fast, just some shout outs. First, Lewis Baker, having this site and putting this on, I think he's doing a great thing. I have your video actually right now up on the big screen behind me. So I've been watching that. Nick Turner inviting me to the group, so I appreciate you doing that, Nick. Then I'm gonna go kind of fast here, but my wife, Jaden Rowan, some people that have been big influences in my life, my dad, Rick, my brother, Cody, Coach Brack, Coach Kelly, DJ, Cole, Finn, Fox, Levitt, Hess, Kyle, Chris, Jason Miller, my father-in-law, Jackson, my brother, Keith, Blake, Connor, my other brother, Ross, all the Oklahoma coaches I know and mentors, Steve Ferguson, Tom Moore, Wes Ruth, Surrett, Serber, Dutton, Haas, Hardell, Strickland, Miller, Gray, Daryl Martin. All you guys had a big impact in my life, and I know I'm leaving plenty of people out, I'm sure, but everything that I do is shaped around what a lot of these men and women have taught me. So I had to mention them real fast. Okay, a little bit about me real fast. I've wrestled since I was 3 years old. I've coached for 6 years. So I've done this most of my life. I can't really remember a time where I wasn't wrestling or it wasn't a part of my life. I'm born and raised Duncan, Oklahoma. Went to University of Central Oklahoma. Had a great experience up there. Then I came after that. I finished wrestling there. I was a graduate assistant for 2 years. Got to teach at the Division II level, which was amazing. And then after that, I came down to Duncan and helped with their Little League and Junior High for a year. And then now I'm here in Comanche, where I've been for 3 years, helping with the Junior High and the Little League. And then this year will actually be my first year as the head coach for the high school, so I'm really excited. Also, one thing about me that I think is kind of unique to some people out there is I'm the head football coach for our wrestling team, and I'm the head football coach for our head coach for our football team. So I deal with, like I said, Little League, Junior High, and high school with all those groups, and so the one reason I do that is because I love teaching and coaching, and I also played those sports, but I think they work well with each other. And ultimately, really just being a good athlete is the main thing. And there are some specific things in wrestling, but having good muscular endurance, muscular strength, flexibility, body composition, all those things, cardiovascular endurance. All those things don't have anything to do with wrestling, and so, strengthen those things now during this time. And I'm here on a mat right now, but I realize a lot of you don't have a mat or you don't have a partner, so I'm going to try to teach you some things that I think will help you at home alone, and basic things that some of you may think that this is isn't as advanced as maybe you would like, but the more I wrestle and the more I coach, it's the most basic things that separate the good from the great. So last thing I'll say, and then we'll kind of get started. My expectations for the kids is pretty simple. I don't really have a lot of rules, but the main thing is they need to be self-motivated. We're pretty much glorified cheerleaders, us wrestling coaches are. We can do and show a lot of things, but ultimately they have to do it on their own. We all know that. So self-motivation is a big thing, and that's a big thing that's going on right now for the ones that are stuck at home. The real wrestlers out there are self-motivated, and they're finding ways to get better. And then my main goal for myself as a coach, and then what I would love the kids to graduate and take with them, is they need to use this platform to inspire others. And that's one reason I'm doing this. This is out of my comfort zone because I definitely want to stay genuine and authentic. I don't want to put on a show for the camera, so I want to try to do exactly what I would do here if this camera wasn't on me. And the kids that I coach and teach should be able to attest that this is who I am, and it's pretty weird. So, anyways, I think I'm done talking here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to really focus a lot on just, like I said, stance and motion type stuff, because it's stuff that you need to be doing at home alone. And what I've seen the last couple years, since I've started coaching, you start seeing things from a different lens. I see a lot of stance and motion that has no purpose. And so you see guys kind of going through the motion, and they're not purposeful in what they're doing. And sometimes it seems like they don't even understand what exactly is going on. And I'll try to explain some of those things. First thing I'm going to do is I got to get warmed up. I'm 29 years old, so got to get loose real quick. And then once I get loose, then we'll get started. But I usually just get loose every day doing some gymnastics. And then I teach this to our younger kids and our older kids, but I focus on animal movements, basic movements that you've heard of, like bear crawl, monkey crawl, crab walk, those type of things. So I'm going to go through that stuff. Really important right there, making sure that when you do this, you're breathing and you're keeping your eyes open and you're working on your balance. One thing about my childhood when I was growing up is I was actually in gymnastics. My parents put me in gymnastics. Technically it was cheer, I just don't like to tell people that. But I learned how to tumble, learned about how to use my body. I learned some of the details on being smooth and conserving energy, and all those different things relate back to some of the stuff I learned in gymnastics. So I really think that that's an important thing that you need to be teaching your kids, is how to do a forward roll, because you'll be surprised how many kids in high school today do not know how to do a forward roll. So it's very important. used to do a lot of gymnastics, so I may bust it a little bit here, but I love to just flip around sometimes when I really get pumped up. You kind of get that pep in your step, start just hitting stuff. And so I got a few little tricks I like to do. Some of the kids, I do this every once in a while just when I'm feeling real good, so I'm feeling good. All right, that'll get you tired right there. But people don't realize how much strength that takes, how much energy that takes. And so, wrestling is just a big deal of gymnastics, but you're against another person. So, a 9, I'll take that. All right. Anyways, now I'm gonna move on. Talk to you about some animal movements. Number 1 movement is bear crawl. All right, I'll kind of go through them. Bear crawl. Use this all the time with our little kids, just being able to move here. Doesn't matter which direction, just getting them moving. I do this every single day. Some people that have wrestled a long time, maybe you remember a monkey crawl. It's just like bear crawl, but you're just adding some kind of a gallop to it. So the kids love those things, and it's good for them, good to scramble. Crab walk, forward and backwards. So one of the biggest successes I've had as a coach is I use whistle a lot, and I'll be having them doing a bear crawl. We work on our hip height, so I'll say bear crawl, we're moving. I'll blow the whistle, bottom leg goes under. Now we're in a crab walk. Moving around, blow the whistle, bottom leg goes under. Now I'm in a bear crawl. So it's really good, and I get them going fast. Crab walk, bear crawl, crab walk, bear crawl. So we do that quite a bit. I think it's, like I said, if anything, you're working them, and that's half the battle. So, again, it goes back to self-motivation. We can't always be cheerleaders. These guys have got to work on their own. They got to be motivated. Okay, so next thing, old school seal walk. Remind me of my dad. He used to teach these all the time, but just letting your lower body go limp. Kind of pulling your lower body behind you, dragging yourself. You start doing that for a while. It won't feel too good, but it's really a good thing for your shoulders. Next thing, got just an old school frog hop. So you tell the kids, hit a frog hop. So just both hands down, and we're leaping as far as we can, trying to land balance. Really trying to use your whole body. You can only do so many of those, and you're gonna be hurting. Last animal, or actually 2 more. Just the duck walk. So most of y'all call this just like a penetration step, but I call it duck walks because the animals and the kids like that. So just duck walking. Main thing on this is trying to keep my spine straight. See a lot of guys, they'll try to But I just want to be able to balance myself, keep my spine straight. Chuck, I don't know the Tiger King. You're going to have to show me that one. Next, this is the last one right here. It's just an army crawl, but for the kids, I call it a snake. So, it's, you know, we're just crawling on the ground. So, you know, that's pretty much how I get warmed up, but I try to mix all those things in there. One thing I do with the kids usually right towards the end, trying to get them really quick on the whistle. I don't like a lot of kids just kind of sitting around not knowing what's going on. That's why I think the whistle's so important. You say a command, you blow the whistle, they do the command. And it's not always that easy, but that's what we're working for. And after a while, a few weeks of training, it starts getting easier. But what I'll have them do is just so they'll get up real quick in a stance, and I'll be facing them. But I'll say, all right, on your back. So we get on our back. And I'll say, up in the stance, on the whistle. And we're up quick. Okay, now, something that's real important, you see a lot of little kids will do this, and you got to correct them, but a lot of the times you'll blow the whistle, and they'll come straight up over their feet, and then they'll stand straight up. And you know what happens when you do that, you're going to get taken down. So I really try to talk to them about the sequence of wrestling. We're on our back. How do we get off our back? We bridge. After we bridge, we get back to our belly. Once we get back to our belly, we get to our base, and then we're up on our feet and we're in a stance. And then the quicker you get at that, you know, you don't want to skip steps, but you want to try to really get through those steps, and the ultimate goal is get back up in a good stance, knees bent, hands are ready, blocking your legs. So I'll do that from the back, also do it from the front. Set, go. We're just working on getting up, staying down low, making sure my legs are protected. And then we'll do it from the base too, which most of y'all know, just, you know, we're just gonna hit a stand-up right there, kind of a shadow stand-up. Or a stance. So, when you mix all those things together, what I just talked about, the gymnastics, the animal movements, the scramble into a stance, that could be a great warm-up for you right there, and you're incorporating all the necessary things you need to get loose. I mean, the main thing is warm your muscles up, but then gymnastics, you're going to be working on your awareness, working on your balance, then you're going to get all those joints loose, and then once you hit your animal movements, now you're really starting to work on some of them level changes and good body position. And so real quick, I'm going to go about probably 2 minutes. I'm going to set the clock up there, about 2 minutes. And then after that, I'll take a little break, get a drink real fast. But I'm going to try to add all those together. All right, that might have been like a minute. I'm gonna take a quick break. I'm gonna go get a drink. I'll be right back. All right, so just a second while maybe some of you catching your breath, me too. Just gonna show you for drill practices, sometimes we do have an advantage with some technology. I got this sweet little roll down screen that sometimes we'll watch a movie, or we'll watch flow or some technique, or we'll watch wrestling lunch break, whatever. And so it helps every once in a while because it just sparks up some motivation for them. Like we came in here, and I don't know if any of y'all seen it, but I'm sure some of you older ones have, but the Mark Ironside, Kerry Colott video, the college matchup they had, we threw that bad boy on right before state, and I don't know. You never know what really works, but it got me pumped up. So I was sorry I got a little distracted because I got pumped because Chuck, appreciate that dude giving me a shout out right there. It's tough doing this stuff day in and day out, but that's what wrestling coaches do. That's what coaches do. That's why I do it. I love it. Keeps me in shape. Thankfully, I got a good wife at home. She allows me to do these things. Next, let's come over here. I want to talk to you about some stuff first. Okay. All right, so I'm going to slow it down, but some of y'all may appreciate this more than others, but this is some stuff that I've done throughout when I was at UCO with some kids, and then I also did this with some kids throughout junior high and high school, not so much elementary. Let me start over this one first. Real fast. All right. Trying to show you this tape line. I make these tape lines right here, so try to give like a visual of what I mean. Hopefully it makes sense to you guys. Okay, so wrestling, we already know most of these things, but two types of stance. What are they? We got square stance and we got a stagger stance. Okay, so if you can see this cross I'm making, what it does is it makes 4 squares. Okay, so what I'll do with my kids sometimes is I'll say, okay, get in a square stance, and then I'll ask them, where are you weak at? Where are you vulnerable? And what I tell them is, you're weaker and vulnerable forward and backwards whenever my feet are square right here. And then you get them in a stagger stance, you get them in each one of these boxes right here, and then you say, okay, now where am I vulnerable at? And you tell them, you're vulnerable over here in this box, and you're over here back in this box. And the main reasons why, you haven't figured it out by now, is your post. You have a good stance is about stability. So what stability means is you got your center of gravity, aka your weight, and then you got your bases of support, or your posts. People call them posts in wrestling. So on my feet, my 2 posts are my legs. So a wide base of support, basis of support, and a low center of gravity increases your stability. So if I got a skinny basis of support and a tall center of gravity, I'm less stable. So all those things have to do with balance. So I learned some of this stuff actually learning and reading martial arts. There's a thing out there called the 8 points of balance, which is basically like the directions on a compass. You got north, south, west, east, northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. And so the reason why these things are important, I'm getting to it, is when you're telling these kids, when they look at their opponent, okay, so watch this. Your opponent steps up to the line. Where is he weak at? You automatically know right now just by how he's set. Where's my opponent weak at? You start understanding and learning and looking at these things while you're wrestling, and you just know. You know where to push him. You know where to pull him because you know how to get him off balance. And so if you don't understand some of these things like hand fighting, that type of stuff, it's not going to make sense to you because you're just going to be out there billy clubbing people when the whole point of it is to push and pull them off balance. So a lot of that comes from your footwork. And so again, some of you may like some of this stuff. Some of you may think this dude's really weird, but the reason I'm showing you these things is because it's helped in my career, but it's also helped in some of the careers of the kids that I've coached before. So it meant something to them. Figure maybe somebody out here means something to you. Okay, I'm gonna show you now this one right here. I call this one, well, I didn't make it up, but it's an arrow drill, and I actually stole this from boxing. When I was in college, I used to box a lot just to cross-train, and it really improved my wrestling game. So what I'll do is I'll have a guy just start in the middle, and I try to talk to him about how to line. Let me try to get this a little straighter. Doesn't have to be perfect. But a line where I'm straddling this middle line right here with my feet in a staggered stance. And there's some controversy on how you get your back foot set. Some people you see, they got their foot up right here, and then some people have their foot a little more open. I prefer to have mine a little more open. The reason why is because it gives me a little bit more of a post back here when someone shoots, but it also gives me a little bit more power. I feel like it gives me some more power because it incorporates a little bit more of my hamstrings and my butt muscles versus whenever I'm right here, you're really focusing on the calf muscle. And I know that's weird, but those little details matter to me. So anyways, starting out right here, most kids know if I want to step left, okay, and I'm talking about me, so it'll probably be backwards for you guys, maybe not, but if I step left, what foot has to push? Your front foot has to push. So when I push with that foot, I have to step with this foot. And then I close. Now if I want to come back this other way to the right, my back foot's got to push. And I step and close. And also notice how, since I do this arrow drill, the reason why I like doing this arrow drill is because I try to stay in line with the tape. And I tell my kids, like, take a picture of your feet right now. So if I step over to this angle, your feet need to match up how they were over there. And what tends to happen is you get guys right here and they'll step over here, and then as they change this angle, they're not turning their body. And so they're not actually changing the angle, they're just moving laterally. And I know this is detailed, but hopefully some of you coaches can pay attention to some of these things in practice, and maybe you'll see what I'm seeing. And then the kids, you might be thinking, I know how to step, dude. Well, do you? Because I see a lot of kids still fumbling over their feet, and I just think you're not focusing in on where the motion starts from. It starts from your feet. Okay, so some drill I'll have them do is this arrow drill is I'll just have them go to both sides and back. So step, 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 step. Step, step, step. And what you want to see is you don't want them to do this. You don't want them to go. You see that happen quite a bit. So pay attention to some of those things on that. I'll move on. Like I said, this is a really good drill. This helped me out a lot. It helped with a bunch of kids that I used to coach. One thing I want to stress to you guys about when you're in a stance, okay, so I'm in my square stance. whenever I get ready, to me there's 4 types of motion. And whenever you move forward or you penetrate, you're just stepping a leg forward. So now I'm in my stagger stance. I've penetrated forward. The opposite of that to me would be evading. So I'm going backwards. But as I step backwards, I'm still in that stagger stance. So that could be a setup for you too. You know, you got a guy charging in and I'm stepping back and lowering. I'm not technically running from him. I'm setting him up. So those are 2 motions right there, penetrate and evade. Another motion to me, you got to know the difference between these 2, but a circle, so I'm circling around an object. I'm circling around an object. Versus there are times where, kind of like in boxing, and I took some of this stuff that I learned from boxing, but I'm stepping and pivoting. Okay, so I technically, didn't take this foot off the ground, but I'm also not sinking all my weight in this foot and getting stuck. I'm stepping, and I'm using that foot to pivot this back foot in the line that I'm looking for, so that when I shoot, I'll be right on my target. Okay, so those 4 types of motion: penetration, evade, circle, and pivot. That stuff's really important. And one thing I tell my kids to try to get them to understand is I relate back to video games. I know y'all got a lot of kids that play video games. But what I tell them is you have a lead leg and a trail leg. Okay, so whatever that is, some people put their right leg, some people put their left leg, some do both. But on their lead leg and their trail leg is pushing. That's the foot that causes the motion. It creates the motion. So when I push, that's going to take me from A to B. Now my lead leg, that's the barrel. That's the barrel of the gun. That's going to point to the direction. So typically wherever my toe's pointing, as I push, that's the direction I'm going to be in. So whenever I'm doing this drill, I'm moving my feet, the details of what foot pushes and what foot steps and where my toe's pointed, all those things are going to make a difference, especially when you're wrestling high-level competition. You guys know that. Some of you guys that have been in some of them high-level tournaments, every little thing counts. And I know this is all details, but check yourself. If you think that this is too easy, check yourself. Go hit some stance in motion, film yourself, and see if you're off balance. See if your feet are stepping correctly. All those type of things. Okay, now I'm going to show you just some of my stance in motion real quick, and I'm going to, just with using those things. So I'm not really going to shoot, but I'm going to do some feigning. So I'll move in a little bit, but I'm not going to actually penetrate into a shot. I might hit like a snatch single. And the main reason I'm doing this is just because if you're at home and, you could find some grass, but if you're at home and you don't want to bang your knees up, that old snatch single, old David James, UCO, taught me a snatch single. I never thought it would work at 133 pounds, but that snatch single, you don't have to be a big guy to hit that snatch single. You only have to hit the ground. But I'm going to do just a little bit of stance in motion right here, try to mix in some penetration, some evading, and circling and pivoting, and some feigning. And I'm going to do my best to keep my stance down low. I'm not competing no more, so my stance gets up a little high sometimes. But sometimes when you're focusing on your footwork, it ain't all about the level change right now. It's more about just using your feet correctly. So even if you're up tall, you got a kid up tall and he's just working kind of like a boxing, bouncing, like jump roping. As long as he's moving his feet correctly, to me, he's getting the point. Then we can work on getting that stance down lower. So. You know, if I'm really being honest and authentic, you know, I get into them modes like I'm Muhammad Ali out there. And I never fought in a boxing match in my life. But I've wrestled in 2,000-3,000 matches in my life. And so, I don't know, once you've been in physical combat like wrestling, all that stuff's the same thing anyways. I mean, it's all just rules. So I get out there, and the main thing is I'm flowing, I'm moving, I'm floating, I'm stinging, I'm moving in, moving out, working on my feints, working on my movement, you know, getting the guy guessing. And it can get fun too. If you're out there just being bored and you're like, oh, coach said we're going a minute, stance in motion. I mean, you're thinking about it the wrong way. You're not self-motivated. And also to the coaches, I'd say this. My preference, you don't have to use this, but my preference, kids doing stance in motion as a group, maybe you got 30 kids going. I'm watching as a whole, not one kid. I'm watching as a whole. And when I see as a whole things start to decline, as far as like they're standing up, they're not moving correctly, things are looking sloppy, I stop it. It might be 15 seconds, but I'm stopping it because I'm not going to allow them to continue to create bad habits. I'm stopping it right there, and I got to stress to them the importance of purposeful drill and purposeful stance in motion. And if we're not purposeful stance in motion, then you're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy. So, anyways, I'm going to go ahead and take another quick little break, just get a drink real fast, and then we'll talk about level changing, and then I got a few more drills I want to show you guys, okay? I really appreciate the ones that are watching and that have been watching. I see some of you guys on there, some familiar faces. Coach Howard, Coach Hawk. I think my wife's on here. I just appreciate y'all being here. I'm up for criticism. I have pretty tough skin, so I'm not going to get offended. I'm always up to learn. I want to continue learning and getting better, and I know that if I continue to learn and get better, then I know my kids are going to continue to learn to get better. And so I just want to appreciate you guys saying that, Patrick and Cliff. You know, I think that's what's cool is I don't even know some of you guys, and you don't know me, but you know wrestling, and you know what it takes. So it's been a lifetime of work for me, and I'm humbled just to even get to share some knowledge. Okay, now one drill, and it's I say I stole it from him, but we all steal stuff from everybody. You know, that's the whole point of this is I've learned from all those guys I gave shout outs to, and then when I'm at tournaments as a coach, I'm not just sitting up there BSing with my kids all the time. I mean, sometimes you want to have some fun, but I'm up there sitting in the stands, and I'm watching what other coaches are doing, how they're talking to their wrestlers. I'm watching how they're warming up. I'm watching the little details on what's that guy doing, and I'm picking and choosing things that I like and don't like. And there's been some few things I've learned. Here's one, and the person I saw it from, he's probably not on here, but Tyrone Lewis. You know, he's a great wrestler, OSU, coaches at El Reno, and you know, me and Tyrone are friends. But this is something I've seen him doing, and I just think, you know, that's so simple, but it's a great drill. So just a figure eight. So, I mean, we're right here, and you're teaching your kids to draw a figure eight. So as I circle around, you're going to meet in the middle, pivot, and now I'm circling on the other side of the eight. And then my other foot hits the middle, and I'm pivoting and circling. So again, on this one, it's not so much about level. It's just about getting your hips around, good foot distance, you know, those type of things. So that was a great one for me. I use that quite a bit. just in the middle of stance in motion. Your stance in motion, the kids start getting stiff, hit the whistle, hit some figure eights, mix it up a little bit. Next, I want to talk about level changes. Okay, so I'm a nerd because I teach biology. I went to school and I graduated with a PE degree, so education, physical education, and then went on working on my master's in exercise science. So I love learning how the human body works. And so you start learning things like, our body, we're holding ourselves up, and then if I let my knees and my hips and my ankles unhinge, I'm going to drop. Gravity's going to drop me. I know that. Gravity's going to drop me. So when I'm in a stance and I'm in a good stance, I'm pretty low, but when it's time to go, I'm allowing myself to drop, but I'm dropping and letting gravity do the work. I'm not using my antagonist muscles, which is basically just your opposite muscle. So like as I go down, I'm not squeezing that muscle to go down. I'm in a stance, I'm dropping, and then as I drop, that muscle back there, that hamstring is loose. So as I drop, I push. So it's a quick movement. It's a drop and push. Drop and push. Drop and push. That's really important. Going back to coaching multiple sports, I coach football, so running backs. If any of you out here play football, I'm running the football. When I hit a juke, I don't step and I sink. You can't sink all your weight. If you sink all your weight, now I have to overcome and go back. And that takes time and it's slow. So whenever you're a running back, you're moving, you got to step light so that I can shift my weight back quick the other direction. And that muscle's got to be loose so that it can be ready to fire. So I know that's details, but I read in a book one time about Tai Chi book, and this guy, he said in there, when you tense your muscles up, think about this, your arm, your bicep is designed to rotate your arm forward, just like your tricep is designed to extend your arm. So they're opposites. So whenever I squeeze both of them, you're fighting against yourself. And so notice, you see people like when they get into fights or something, or maybe you see a guy that's not trained very well, they're so tense and they're squeezing. But if I was really in a fist fight and I was going to go punch, would my bicep really have much to do with the force of that punch? Really it comes from your legs. But if anything, it's going to be my tricep extending and pushing. And so learning how to loosen up this bicep muscle, this antagonist muscle, is going to help you move quicker, and it's going to conserve energy. So same concept with your legs. When I'm moving, you got to learn how to loosen and let gravity drop me. So, it's almost like I'm kind of like just floating and bouncing a little bit. But you see a lot of guys, when they move, it's ooh, 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 ooh. And it's because they're squeezing every single muscle they got in their body. You got to loosen up, relax. One move that I had a lot of success with was a misdirection. And so I'm moving in my stance, and I'm dropping, and I'm learning how to go both directions quick. I can't get in here and go and settle and then try to come back. I got to drop, I got to step, boom. Dustin Reed, one of my good partners at UCO, was excellent at that too. And we worked on that a lot together, and we fed off each other. So something we really tried to work on is being able to shift directions quickly. And if you look up the definition, switching directions quickly, that's just agility. So you got to be agile. Again, that goes back to just being an athlete. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about one thing that I really, we're getting close to the hour already. Time's flying. Let me see what I want to do real quick. I'm going to show you two more things, okay? This one right here is something I use all the time with our guys, and it's changed the game for me too, also as a wrestler and as a coach. But because I go out and wrestle with them all the time, and I know how to conserve energy, and I know how to let them do most of the work, and I'll do most of the scoring. And so one thing is when these guys snap you down, when someone snaps your neck and you fight back against it, you're shredding these lower back muscles, your neck muscles. Anyone that wrestles knows that. So my philosophy is I'm in a stance and I'm relaxed, right? I just told you relax. Like I'm moving and I'm relaxed. But when this guy pulls me, I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to go with it. And so again, I go back to my animal movement, my bear crawl. But I tell our guys, our snap defense is we bear crawl out of it. So if I'm wrestling and this guy snaps me, I'm bear crawling out of it, and you see it's almost like that monkey crawl. I'm monkey crawling right back up to my feet, and I'm in a good stance. And what ends up happening is these guys do that, and I just monkey crawl right into that shot. So I'm in a stance. Guy shoots. He snaps. Boom, boom. You see what I'm saying? I'm using that momentum right there. And you'd be surprised, guys will snap you hard. They're trying to get rough, and they'll pull you right into their legs. Now, we all know in a good snap, you got to move your legs. But, again, pointing the barrel in the right direction, you can snap me down. So a guy snapped me down, and if he's circling away, and I realize that as I fall, I'm going to try to fall into that direction. And then all I got to do, you guys that know how to wrestle, you know that finishing is the hardest part. Getting to the legs is easy. And I know I say that, but in college, it is hard. Higher level, it's hard to get to those guys' legs. But I'll tell you, it's a lot easier to get to their legs than it is to finish. And anyone knows wrestling knows that. Watch a wrestling match. Go to a tournament and see. You watch all these kids wrestle. They get to the legs all day, but no one can finish. And the best guys go finish. And so using this bear crawl to get to the leg, once I get to the leg, now go finish. And so if anything, it's just a setup to me. So I'm not worried when I'm in my stance. I'm loose, I'm relaxed. If I see an attack or I'm fainting, I go and I set my stuff up. But at the same time, if this guy is going to try to be a bruiser, he's trying to pull me down, he's trying to push and pull me, I'm going to let him pull me right into a shot. I'm going to take advantage of it. And so that bear crawl to a shot, bear crawl recovering from a snap down, all those things will help on your defense and defense to an offense. Last thing I want to show you. Actually, I got 10 minutes left, so real quick, I'll show you this one. Okay. I use this for my feints. Like if I'm just in there and I'm hitting my fake real quick, but when I feint, you can't sink your foot in the mud. Just like moving quick, being agile. I got to learn how to get hit forward, but then I got to get back, and I got to be able to not go so far back that I get myself off balance. It's a fine art right there, going in and out. But I use this cone just right in the middle of a circle. I don't even need a cone because I just think about the middle. But maybe somebody that hadn't got the concept yet doesn't understand that. So just stick it in the middle. And I'm rotating around it, circling around it, and I'm faking. But every time I fake and move in, I'm stepping right towards the cone. So it gives you just a target. Helps them, you talk to them about back foot pushing, front foot guiding, that type of stuff. See how, like, as I go in, I have to go in to sell it, but then I gotta move out and circle out. I gotta move back out so that I don't leave my leg there to get attacked. So right here I'm in and I'm back. I gotta get it back out and around. And again, that just goes back to like finding the flow, continuing to move in and out, having some fun with it, not getting stuck in the mud. You get stuck in the mud when you start thinking, okay? Last thing I'm gonna do, and I'm probably wrap it up, but I'm gonna show you, this is the truth, for me at least. But some of our guys I've noticed, they'll, when I first started doing this, they just watch, and then some of them are shy because they don't know how to box, but crap, I don't know how to box either. But I do know enough about timing and footwork I know what I'm doing on some of this stuff. And again, this is a wrestling page, so all this relates back to wrestling for me. And the reason why I do this is it helps with my timing and my synchronization. And for those that don't know what synchronization is, it's basically everything starts from the ground. So whenever I throw a punch, I push, and it starts from my back foot, goes up my calf, up my hamstring, up my butt, up my back, until it eventually comes out my hand. Okay, so there's a timing on that. And if you start firing a muscle too soon, the synchronization's off. So you gotta be synchronized. And so we're out there doing stance in motion, and you're moving, but is your upper body connected to your lower body? And that's the whole point of this. And you can tell, because if you're not connected, then your punches aren't going to feel right, and it's not going to be, the timing's not going to be there. And so you can feel it real easy just by hitting. Like I said, I'm no expert at boxer, but I try to pay attention to distance. Just like in wrestling, we got to know how far we are. Are we outside? Are we inside? It helps me with things like, as the bag moves, I can move with the bag. So you're learning how to kind of pick up that timing and rhythm right there. And then obviously the timing of my punches and triggering my back foot and allowing it to go all the way up my body and out my fist. So I'm just going to mess around a little bit on this bag and kind of show you what I do like almost every day when I get here for practice. I usually do this to warm up, and just gets me loosened up. It makes me feel like my feet are on point. And if my feet are feeling good, then I get out on the mat and I get in a stance, and then it's a good day. So, like I said, first thing is I just gotta find my distance. Once you find your distance, and I've done this enough, you pretty much know, and you can get in and get out. And I'm just gonna throw some jabs, throw some punches, but I'm not throwing no haymakers, but I'm just really working on staying with the bag, floating with the bag. So I'm a southpaw, by the way. Like I said, I'm no expert. I mean, what do I know about boxing? I've never been in a boxing fight in my life, but I've trained boxing at home with a heavy bag and with my friends, and throw the gloves on. But wrestler, boxer, jiu-jitsu, judo, to me it's all a martial art, and so they're all connected. And this is a way we're connected with boxing. And one thing I wanted. It's hard for you to see, and it may not look this way from that point of view, but I'm feeling it in my abs, I'm feeling it in my butt, I'm feeling it in my hips, my elbows are in, boom. If anyone's seen that video a while back of Dan Gable on Flow Wrestling, he's in there, that heavy bag, he's real close to it, but he had his elbows in, and he just boom, 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 just going to work on it. And he's talking about, boom, I'm digging an underhook, digging an underhook, digging an underhook. And that's just, I get in front of that and I just work on square base, standing close, and just boom, 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 boom. And just working on also breathing. You know, it sounds so silly because so many of these, you know, you hear so much crap these days about what to do, what not to do, and this and that, and all these flashy things. And I know some of that's like may seem some flashiness or whatever, but it's really not. It's really the basics of wrestling. It's footwork, stance, motion, position. It's just I'm trying to. What I'm interested in is kind of the science behind wrestling. And for any of you out there that are interested, I'd love to collaborate because there's not a lot of research when it comes to wrestling as far as mechanics go. There's a lot of information about weight cutting and nutrition and how that affects the body. Multiple studies done about kids testing their strength levels and then going on a 2-week weight cut and then testing them again and doing bad on their second test. So we've seen the results of poor weight cutting and all that stuff, but there's not a whole lot of research on things like the very beginning, the back foot placement. And some people are like, who cares? And maybe to a beginner, you're just like, man, I got way bigger fish to fry. But I'm telling you, as a coach, what I see is people putting Band-Aids on problems instead of getting to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem, 9 times out of 10 with me, is footwork. Is these kids don't know how to move their feet right. Because if you start moving your feet right, you know what foot's pushing, what foot's stepping, and in what direction. I mean, everything else kind of takes care of itself. You don't even really have to use your eyes. Once you get a hold of the guy and you feel where he's at, you just use your legs to feel the pressure. And if your legs aren't in the right position and you don't understand what I'm saying on that stuff, then you're not going to feel it. And if you don't feel it, then you're not going to know what to do. And so, you know, all these things are stuff, like I said, I'm interested in. I read a lot of martial arts. I read a lot of judo, jiu-jitsu. I read a lot of tai chi and wrestling and boxing and all that stuff. I get into gardening too, and I know that sounds kind of weird to some people, but when our sport deals with nutrition more than any other sport, so why wouldn't you take an interest in the food you eat, especially when you have a chance to grow it? So, and you know, in a time like this right now, when things are tough and stores are closing and those type of things, I mean, that's another skill that you might need to read up on because I think it's important. But all that, what I'm saying with the gardening, the reason I even brought that up is just because it doesn't matter how you get better, whether you're reading, whether you're being physical, working out, spiritually. You know, one thing that I usually do, actually I always do it after every practice, is I say the Lord's Prayer with my kids, and that's just what I do. I said a prayer before I started, and the reason why I said that is just because I wanted to come off authentic. I didn't want to come off like I was putting on a show. I didn't want to come off like I was doing some stuff that I'd never do before, just because I'm in front, you know, showing you guys what we do here. But this is basically, I mean, I do these things all the time. And, you know, some of the tape stuff that I showed, that's not all the time. That's more like, you know, I'm teaching a kid something important about stance and motion, and then trying to get the concept to them. And once I feel like I got the concept, now we're going to work. But, yeah, I see you, Norman. Count your blessings, bro. Anyways, I'm going to get off here real quick. I'm going to say the Lord's Prayer real quick, and then we're going to wrap it up. But I just want to say thanks again to Lewis Baker, and I want to say thanks to all the guys out there that have dedicated their time to helping everyone out, because you never know. When I was a little kid, I saw things I saw old VHS tapes of guys wrestling at the national tournament, and it inspired me. You know, these kids, they got everything. And so they have access to all kinds of great things. And so I'm jealous a little bit, but what y'all are doing, it might not seem like a big deal to most people, but it is a big deal, because we used to fight for tapes when I was younger. You couldn't find technique from anybody, so it's just a different world we live in. But I think it goes back to, now that there's so much information out there, you need to get back to the basics. You need to get, and what I mean by that is balance, you know, those type of things, leverage, the stuff that doesn't change. So anyways, real quick, Lord's Prayer, and then I'm out of here. All right. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, so we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not in temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.